It is 2 o'clock in the morning. You are walking home alone. You reach a quiet, completely empty intersection. The pedestrian signal is glowing solid red. You stop at the curb. You look to your left. You look to your right. There are no cars. There are no sirens. There is not a single other human being for a mile in any direction. Logic dictates that you can simply walk across the street. The physical reality of the situation is entirely safe, but the glowing red hand commands you to stand still. You wait for a second, and then you step off the curb. You cross the street against the light, and as you do, a very specific, undeniable sensation washes over you. It is a tiny electric jolt, a subtle rush of satisfaction. You haven't achieved anything. You haven't gained any meaningful advantage by saving 30 seconds. Yet, you feel a distinct biological thrill. You just broke a rule, and your brain loved it. Most of us misunderstand our relationship with rules. We are taught from a very young age that obedience is a virtue and disobedience is a moral failure. We view the urge to break the rules as a character flaw. We label people who bend the guidelines as rebellious, undisciplined, or reckless. We build massive institutional structures, legal systems, and religions entirely around the concept of falling in line. But if obedience is the ultimate goal of the human animal, why does breaking the rules feel so chemically rewarding? Why does pushing a button that clearly says "do not touch" require a monumental exertion of willpower? To answer that, you have to realize that you are not broken. You are not a chaotic anomaly. You are executing one of the most dangerous and vital survival programs in human history. The urge to break the rules is not a modern character flaw. It is an evolutionary mandate. For 99.9% of human history, your ancestors lived on the African savanna. In this brutal, ancient environment, the rules of the tribe were not suggestions. They were the literal mechanics of survival. Do not eat the berries from the dark green bush. Do not walk near the tall grass where the lions hunt. Do not leave the firelight after the sun goes down. If you broke these rules, you did not get a fine. You did not get a stern talking to. You died. The environment was an unforgiving executioner. The tribe relied on strict conformity to stay alive. The elders learned the patterns of danger, they established the boundaries, and the group adhered to them. From a strictly mathematical standpoint, it seems like evolution should have aggressively bred out the desire to break rules. It should have designed a human brain that feels profound, paralyzing terror at the mere thought of stepping out of line. It should have built a species of absolute conformists, but it didn't. Evolution deliberately left a glitch in the system. Why? Because environments change. Imagine a prehistoric tribe that possesses perfect, unquestioning obedience. Their primary rule is, we only hunt in the Eastern Valley and we never cross the Great River to the west. For generations, this rule keeps them safe. The Eastern Valley is rich with game and the Western River is known to be dangerous. The rule is sacred. But then, a massive drought hits. The Eastern Valley dries up. The game disappears. If the tribe consists entirely of perfect conformists, they will sit in the barren dust of the Eastern Valley and starve to death. They will obey the rule all the way to their extinction. Perfect obedience in a dynamic environment is a death sentence. Evolution recognized that stability and adaptation are inherently at war with each other. To survive, the tribe needed the vast majority of its people to be cooperative and obedient. But it absolutely required a small percentage of its population to be deeply, fundamentally annoyed by boundaries. It needed a biological mechanism to test the fences. It needed the explorer, the skeptic, the rebel. It needed an ape who would look at the sacred, forbidden river and decide to cross it anyway. So your brain developed a dual reward system. When you conform to the group, you receive a steady drip of serotonin and oxytocin. You feel safe, secure, and accepted. It is a warm, comforting feeling. But when you break a rule, when you step across a forbidden boundary, your brain deploys a completely different chemical weapon. It hits you with dopamine and adrenaline. It lights up the exact same neural pathways associated with gambling, hunting, and acquiring a massive reward. Your nervous system actually drugs you into taking a risk. It rewards you for challenging the status quo because challenging the status quo is how humanity discovered fire. It is how we migrated out of Africa. It is how we figured out which toxic plants could be boiled into medicine. We are not the genetic descendants of the apes who always stayed perfectly inside the lines. We are the descendants of the apes who touched the hot stove, survived, and learned how to cook. This brings us to the modern collision. We took an ancient primate brain, deeply wired with a biological imperative to occasionally break the rules and test its environment, environment, and we trapped it in the modern world. Today, you do not live on a chaotic savanna. You live in a hyper-regulated ecosystem of glass, steel, and endless bureaucracy. You are surrounded by millions of invisible fences. There are speed limits, homeowner association guidelines, tax codes, employee handbooks, terms of service agreements, and thousands of unwritten social contracts. Every single aspect of your modern life is optimized, categorized, and strictly regulated. The modern world demands absolute, rigid, machine-like predictability. Your ancient software looks at this environment and begins to suffocate. Your brain is scanning the horizon, desperate for a boundary to test, desperate for a way to prove that it still possesses autonomy. But there are no new continents to discover on your commute to work. There are no dangerous rivers to cross in your cubicle. You are entirely boxed in by the safety of the modern cage. And this is where the micro-rebellions begin. Because you cannot rebel against the fundamental structure of your survival without ruining your life, your brain seeks out tiny, meaningless rules to shatter. You drive 10 miles over the speed limit, not because you are in a rush, but because the slight acceleration feels like freedom. You steal a cheap pen from the office supply room, not because you need a pen, but because the act of unauthorized acquisition provides a fractional hit of hunter-gatherer dopamine. You walk on the grass right next to the concrete path. You peel the tags off your mattress. You cross the empty street against the glowing red light. These are not acts of criminality. They are acts of biological claustrophobia. You are starving for agency. In a world where every minute of your day is scheduled, monetized, and overseen by an algorithm or a manager, breaking a meaningless rule is a psychological gasp for air. It is your ancient software screaming into the void, reminding the machine that you are still an unpredictable, autonomous animal. Modern society will constantly try to make you feel guilty for this. It will label your desire to push back as immaturity. It will design more systems, more cameras, and more algorithms to ensure perfect compliance. The ultimate goal of modern infrastructure is to remove the human element of unpredictability entirely. But perfect compliance is not a human trait, it is a robotic one. The next time you find yourself standing at an empty intersection in the middle of the night, staring at a glowing red light, pay attention to the friction in your chest. Notice the tension between the conditioned desire to obey and the ancient, whispering urge to step off the curb. That urge is not a character flaw. It is the echo of the same survival instinct that kept your ancestors alive. It is the friction that forces humanity forward. We need the rules to keep the tribe from collapsing into chaos, but we need the rule breakers to prevent the tribe from rotting in stagnation. Do not let the modern world entirely domesticate your mind. Respect the boundaries that keep you safe, but never lose the biological capacity to question why the boundary was built in the first place. Because the moment we stop testing the fences, we stop being human. Thank you for watching. If you are an introspective thinker seeking to understand the invisible strings that pull the puppets of human behavior, you have found your home. Step outside the matrix of modern artifice and understand the real machinery under the hood. Join the Deep channel. Subscribe to New Cortex.